Hey, what's up everybody? Video 44 coming into another video. It's especially clear skies out here. It looks pretty nice. Can't lie, I like the streaks out there. But yeah. The Lakers. I want to talk about the Lakers right now. We had a game yesterday that I think I took the opposite way of the consensus, just like I took the first game the opposite way of the consensus. The consensus hated the first game against the Timberwolves where we got beaten pretty good, and I felt pretty confident about that one. Yesterday, the consensus felt pretty good about the game against Phoenix where we got beaten, and I didn't love the second half and some of the things that I saw there. First half was great, and I think most people were considering, because we blew them out with our starters, that's an encouraging game. But I think it's a fair statement. I think it's a fair outlook or perception of the game. I don't necessarily disagree at all. I just always have my mind on other things. And the thing that I have my mind on the most is development of our players based on my expectations for that core and what it will be able to do if other guys aren't very good. It ain't very high. I don't think AD and Bron can carry us for 82 games. I don't think they can play like that every night for 82 games. And so because I think that, I need my other guys to be developed and playing well and various different things, and that's ultimately what I'm going to be focused on. So it's not because I'm not interested in AD and Bron playing well. It's just because that's default mode. That's default mode. You can pencil them in for playing well on most nights. You can pencil them in also for missing games. So how well can your rotations around them and without them perform will ultimately determine how strong you have of a season, in my opinion. Because they're going to drag you as much as they can, but if you lean on them too much, you're just going to fizzle out. They're not going to have nothing for you in the playoffs, and it's going to suck for you. So you want your other guys to really be very good. You want your other guys to be confident, and you want your other guys to be getting the minutes necessary and the focus necessary. And I'm not going to really judge the team's success by the two main pieces, even though a good portion of the time we may lean on those main pieces. Whether or not we have a good season is not determined by those main pieces, in my opinion. It's determined by the other guys and how well they're able to hold things up, whether those guys are out there or not. And if we are able to have good production coming from those other guys, we'll be able to keep our core healthy, and it will ultimately get us where we're going. But if we have to lean on the core too much, you're going to suck in the end. And that's ultimately why I think development is really the most important thing for the Lakers this year. And how we view the Lakers on this channel will be more so determined by how the other guys really are doing, and not so much Bron and AD when they're kicking tail and playing with a lot of energy at the beginning of the season after, being in mid-season form. Them being in mid-season form in the preseason, it looks great, but you have to consider it's 82 games ahead, which means if they're already looking great and energetic now, then chances are they're going to be out of energy by January, February, March. And so I love our guys being in shape. I love the idea of conditioning, but the schedule is a little too lengthy for me to be encouraged with them being in mid-season form in the preseason. You ever heard of the saying, you peak too early? That can be a thing, especially when there's so much to be relied upon in regards to those two players. They must play well, etc., etc. So it's like, I still have a more pessimistic way of looking at the core as it pertains to just how much they're going to be able to do, as I already said. And I don't want to lean on them too much. I want my young guys to be able to hold their own. I want them to be able to win a basketball game against a team that's on par with them. And if they can't do that, or if they need Bron and AD to play at such a high level for them to be successful, then that's a problem we are not able to fix through trade right now. We're not able to just simply get some new guys. That's not an option right now. So they have to get better, and that's ultimately the emphasis. I'm gonna skip away from something because I have something else on my mind. I'm gonna skip away and I'll get back to the team performance. I was listening to Trevor Lane this morning talk about Walker Kessler's price tag. I understand the Lakers probably could use Walker Kessler as a center, somebody we've had circled on our board for a couple weeks for the summer. Basically, we've been
inquiring about him toward Danny Ainge and the Jazz, trying to see what they would be wanting to do. And listening to Trevor this morning, I guess they came out with a statement saying that the price tag is 2 picks for Walker Kessler, 2 first-rounders. I was never on board with pricing Walker Kessler that high, to be honest with you. I like Walker Kessler a lot. I understand I'm not supposed to be docking the Utah Jazz for how much they paid for a player. I know they got him as basically a throw-in for the Rudy Gobert trade, along with everything else that got thrown into the Rudy Gobert trade. So for them, it's like we're playing with house money with this player no matter what. But when you tell me you want to take 2 picks off my hands to get him to my team, my thinking is, it's 2 things that come to mind. One, you probably are not serious about trading him at all, because that's a price tag the most smart GMs are not going to go for. And the second thing is, you're not talking to me because I'm a smart GM. So that message is sent out for all the people who are desperate and stupid. That's who he's trying to communicate with when he puts a price tag of a player at such an outstanding overprice. He's not talking to smart GMs that he takes seriously. He's trying to put bait out there for morons, if I'm being completely honest with you. People who are not wise enough to know that that's not the price of a player in the offseason who didn't barely get any minutes last year, who's had injury issues, who's limited to certain things that he can do based on his limitations as a player, certain situations you can put him in. You know what I mean? It's like, he's not worth 2 picks to nobody who knows what the hell they're doing. So that message is not for people who know what the hell they're doing. That message is for people who don't. That's really all that is. It's a combination of, I'm not really all that serious about moving this player. I want him to know how much I believe in him and how much we price him up, even though we don't have him in that role. We think of him this much, and that's about trying to gain some favor with him and his representation, to know, hey, Utah values this player. We would prefer to keep him, and if we get for the right price going, we will re-sign him. That's what that tells me. We're not interested in actually trading him. But if someone's stupid enough to give us 2 picks for him, then obviously we'll be willing to move him for an exorbitant amount. Or otherwise, we just want to get good favor with him and let him know how much he's valued to us, and let him know that we're not anywhere near interested in moving him. Least of all to someone serious about having him. And so that's really what it's about, or serious about having him win, rather. Serious about having him part of a good situation. Because if a GM's going to give up 2 picks for Walker Kessler, the chances are they're willing to make other bad trades. They're going to make the team he goes to very bad. And so that's my opinion on the situation. I don't think that message is for intelligent GMs. I don't think that message is for savvy fans who want certain things for their team. He's not available to you. He's available to the dummy that's willing to give up 2 picks for it. There's somebody who don't understand that immediately when the season starts, based on the role that he's going to be in, that price tag should, in theory, come down if Danny Ainge is serious about moving it. Because he ain't going to be able to play up that value. Ain't no way he's playing up 2 picks worth of value, playing behind Collins, surrounded by all these players that ultimately are going to need minutes. And that's the thing about the Utah Jazz. They really do have a lot of talent. Young talent that needs to be developed. But guys who project to develop to be starters and chiefs. You know what I mean? Big dogs. When they finally get to where they're going. And they're playing lesser roles stuck next to one another right now. But eventually most of that talent's going to have to get divvied out. And they got to pick maybe 3 or 4 of those guys to pay. They've already paid Markkanen, so he's chosen. But his contract will probably come to an end by the time some of those guys grow to be who it is they're ultimately supposed to be. By then, it could be a lot of things that switch around with the cap and such like that. So, for me, I don't take Danny Ainge very seriously as it pertains to him looking to trade Kessler, based on the notion that if I'm serious about bringing in Kessler, all I got to do is wait 30 games, 40 games into the season, and that price tag should, in theory, come down because of the role that he's going to be in and because of the likelihood of him getting hurt, for which he's shown that he continues to do. So, you can get Walker Kessler for 1 pick probably in January. You know what I'm saying? Right before the trade deadline. you should probably be able to get him for 1 pick. But while there's no price tag on anybody, because the Utah Jazz have yet to play a single playoff game, a single preseason game, he can price tag anything at any price he wants and try to put the bait out there for anybody who wants to overprice Walker Kessler in their mind, who's willing to do so, pay for that. So there's going to be a lot of coaches who are going to want Walker Kessler on their team because there's several teams that could use a big. We're one of them. But if you're a smart GM, you're not paying 2 picks for a player who's not in a role to play up that value where he's at, and who ultimately has proven himself to be limited in regards to the situations you can place him in. That's not smart. That's not intelligent. So I just want people to understand how I look at that. That's not a message for us. We would otherwise be foolish for taking that bait. And I like Walker Kessler. I'd love to have him as a Laker. And apparently so with the Utah Jazz, which is why they're not serious about trading him. So that's pretty much what that comes down to, man. That's not a serious price tag. And if I were him, I'd probably do the same thing. If I were Danny Ainge, I'd probably do the same thing. I mean, I'm not pressed to really do anything at all. So it's like, hey, if somebody wants this guy, it has to be somebody who absolutely wants to overpay for him. Otherwise, we can just wait this out and see what he becomes. I don't expect to get 2 picks for him any damn way, so I might as well aim high, right? That's kind of what that is. And it worked with the Rudy Gobert trade. I mean, look at the price tag he put on Rudy, and somebody actually pulled the trigger. So, I mean, it's not a bad strategy to try to fleece the hell out of people, or put a feeler out there and see if a moron bites it. But that's not a real offer. That's not a real offer. So that's really what I got to say, man. There's no way in hell I'm doing that, man. There's no way in hell anybody got any sense that's going to actually do that. And I think that's why he did it, because he's not interested in moving Walker Kessler, but more so trying to get him to re-sign on a price that he appreciates. I think that's what it is. They probably see him as part of their future. So yeah, man, we could use a center, but we can't just throw away our only 2 picks that we have. We have 3 picks, but we can't just toss in first rounders just to get role players, bro. That's not a smart way of handling your assets. And we've already made a lot of decisions that we shouldn't have done. So far be it from me to support doing something like this just so we can get a center that, you know, we're really going to have to limit his circumstances because he can't stretch the floor. He's not particularly fast. So certain things, as I said, he's not going to be able to do. So you know that. You already know that. And off of those limitations alone, that price comes down. So yeah, that's what I got to say about Walker Kessler. Hopefully he can find his way to a Laker uniform at some point, but it ain't going to be while the price tag is up no damn 2 first-round picks. There's no way in hell we're doing that. So, that's what's on my mind. I'll skip back to the Lakers. I think the emphasis that I put on Max Christie developing, it kind of ties into what we were talking about at the beginning of this video. I understand that Bron and AD playing at this level make it so that Max Christie playing at that level isn't that big of a deal. If they're playing 48 minutes and he's playing like he did last night, even if he's struggling, you can still win the game. You know, and so I want people to understand that it's not so much emphasis on Max Christie from night to night, but more so the bigger picture of his development and what that means for the ultimate goal, which is us being able to be good enough to win in the playoffs. His struggles are to be expected, as we talked about, but I did highlight it in a way that I don't think most talking Laker heads that I listened to, none of them did. Everybody was kind of focused in on how great Bron and AD looked and how refreshing that was. And so for me, it's like, I really want to pay attention to Max Christie playing well, whether they on the floor playing great and we're up by 1 million or not, because he's such an important piece for our perimeter defense, for our overall size, for our rebounding ability around the wing. You know, he's an important piece because he's one of the only guard/forwards that we have that have a combination of defensive ability, offensive ability, and athleticism. We got guys that have 2 out of 3, 1 out of 3, but not all 3. You see what I'm saying? So you look at a guy like Cam Reddish. If Cam Reddish were a bit more reliable, maybe Max Christie's development wouldn't be as pressing to me. But you got to get Max Christie into a space that allows for him to look really good out there consistently before you're really ready to give him the role that ultimately we're thrusting him into. And so I'm going to have him circled all season long. I thought we did a terrible job last year developing him, as I continue to say. And, you know, it's just going to be, it's going to, a lot of what it is that determines if we had a good game or not is going to be determined by how he's coming along for me. You know what I mean? How he's coming along with Jalen Hood-Schifino and the other young guys as well. Now, there's a few guys we have yet to see. And I don't know if JJ's just not willing to play those guys, period, or if it's just something that's coming along as we continue to go into the preseason. I'm probably leaving the latter. Max Lewis, Jordan Goodwin, Quincy Olivare, and I believe there may be one more player that we haven't seen as well. I can't think who it is, but I think we'll see all of those guys before the end of the preseason. They'll get their opportunities. And Max Lewis is one. I was listening to a podcast this morning, and a guy was saying he doesn't ever want to see Max Lewis on the floor. You know, I had a hard time watching Max Lewis in the summer league, to be honest with you. I wasn't a fan of his "I'm gonna get mine" attitude, or his play style rather, but at the end of the day, I do believe he's going to be a hell of a weapon when we develop him. And if we don't put him on the floor, he's not going to develop. And so I think a guy like him, the more opportunities he has, the better he'll ultimately get. But if you don't give him any opportunities and you throw him out there sparingly, he's going to keep looking the way he's been looking. And that is ultimately what irritates us. So how can we get him to a level that we like? It's by gritting through the difficulty of his development. That's the only way you're going to get to that space. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I have mixed feelings all the way around about certain things. On one hand, I'm a big proponent of bringing in young players and giving them roles that they're ready for. I prefer young guys over vets. Y'all know that. But this is the problem with that, is that you have to deal with the development process. And a lot of times that will cost you wins and losses when those players are not ready or not, you know, they're going through their motions. It can be tough. You know, we've watched a lot of players develop over the last 8 years, some of which we had them for the duration of the development phase and then let them go to other places as soon as we developed them, which was harsh. Talk about Julius Randle, Kyle Kuzma, AC. Like, those guys developed in our situation. As soon as they got good enough to really help, we let them go. And so that's what I'm tired of, is letting people develop here, gritting through all the difficulty of watching them make mistakes and being inconsistent and all that frustrating stuff, only for them to leave here and then play to have their best years. And so how that equates to Max Lewis is, I don't want to go down that path with Max Lewis. If we're going to develop him only to watch him leave after we finally get through 3 or 4 years of watching him struggle, I just don't want to go through that process with any of our young players. I don't want to go through that with Jalen Hood-Schifino either. You know what I mean? So what does that mean? I don't know. Does that mean I want to get rid of those young players right now? Not at all. Not me. Truly, I don't. Does that mean I just have to re-sign them? Not necessarily either, you know, depending on how that development goes and what they're looking like and what we need and all of that. But, you know, just for everything that I love about having young players, this is a part of it that I really don't like that much. It's just watching them develop and going through the process of having them hurt the team while that's happening. It's just a pet peeve of mine. But it is par for the course, man. When you have young players, you got to go through that. I think that's what ultimately the Rockets grew tired of. Their owner, even though he had all types of lottery picks that looked like they're going to be really good one day, he's like, man, I'm sick of watching all these dudes trying to develop. I don't like the fact that they're relying upon each other. It's not getting me where I want to go as quick as I want to get there. Let's just try to bring ourselves some vets to kind of, you know, expedite the process. Even though those vets don't have the upside that these young guys do, they're not going to be worth as much as these young guys. I'll swallow the value just to keep from having to sit through this crap. And the immaturity of some of those guys as well. So, the Lakers got a lot of young players, man. We got an old core, but we are really in the beginning stages of like most of our pieces development. Most of them are guys that just getting started. So if you like those pieces, you can say we have a bright future with all of those guys. But if you don't love those pieces, or you don't think they're going to come together to actually be anything other than a little better than what they are, then we're kind of just waiting around for role players to develop. And so I kind of said the same thing about Troy Brown a few years ago. Guys like that, it's like, how much do I believe in some of these dudes to have to sit here and develop them? You know what I mean? If I don't believe in them enough, I don't want to sit through this, And so Max Lewis is going, this is going to be an interesting year for him to determine what the truth is about that. It's too early to be certain of anything in regards to that particular player. And the stuff that I saw in the summer league was not at all encouraging for me, but I don't think that's not a smart indicator. You don't take that and then say whether or not you believe you should be willing to develop a player. That's not the smartest way to go. You want to have an extended amount of data that exceeds what it is that we have. So I like what he could potentially be based on his length, his athleticism, his ability to score, his ability to, do some things defensively, even though I think he's a real project defensively. I think the tools are there, the athleticism, the speed is there. So it's just going to require a great deal of attention toward him, and then patience with him. And so that's really what it is. I don't think shoving him to the back of the bench is the solution. I don't mean he should have a role, but he's going to have to get plenty of G League minutes, and he's going to be a frustrating player to watch until he gets his feet under him. He's not going to be great. And I think most of us are ready to say that, But you never know how quickly a player's going to make a jump too. You might think a player's going to suck permanently, and then all of a sudden they have a nice month and kind of just make a certain jump in their talent level. A guy's really good at something and he leans on those things, and all of a sudden, boom, he's really a contributor. So you really don't know. And wings are so valuable in this league. Guys who can do the things that Max Lewis is projected to be able to do, to where you're probably smart for holding on to him 3-4 years from now. He can be one of your most important pieces. You never know. But for now, you got to get him into the right habits. You got to let him work out the kinks in his game. And, for a player who likes to do it all himself, boy, is that a frustrating thing to watch. So that's really what it is. I just think he's one of those projects, and this is going to be a big year to determine how much faith people are going to have in him going forward. Or let me put it like this. It's going to be a year that defines whether or not we feel like watching him develop is going to be something that's worth it to us. Because I think he'll be fine 6-7 years from now. It's not even going to be a conversation. But for now, that's the kind of piece he is, man. Not a seamless piece, not a connective piece. A guy who's going to have to really focus on some stuff, man. So that's what I got to say. I think he's like maybe, truthfully, he's probably like 3 years away from being an NBA player. And that's rough on our situation. We have so many players to develop. I don't think that much differently of Bronny. I don't. I think Bronny's going to be easier to watch develop because he has athleticism, because he's a passer, because his game's not necessarily predicated on scoring to begin with. So it's not like you expect from him to turn into some large, volume shooter or nothing like that. That's not his game. His game is little combo stuff. 2 steals, 2 blocks, 6 assists, 12 points. That's really what he's going to do, I think. But that's still extremely valuable. That's still very good. That's still extremely helpful. And with defense not being something that you find too often with little guys, I think if he continues to work on his strength in that area, he's going to be a very valuable piece in the NBA when he develops. But it's going to take many years many years, and you can snuff out a guy's love for the game by asking him to be who he's going to be tomorrow, today. And so that's what I would tell LeBron James. Just, yeah, your son, I believe in his ceiling, but I also believe that a lot of what we're going to be asking him to do may look like it's a privilege for him to be in that situation, but if you zoom out, you're going to find out that that is actually going to be to his detriment. I think the chemistry-wise, for him, the best thing for him to do is to, now that he has his contract, now that he's played on the floor with you, is to go to the G League and just hatch, literally hatch. It's not going to be responsible for us to put him on the floor above some of these other guys, as I talked about last night. It's going to mess with chemistry. It's going to mess with the team. And that's going to trickle down to how well your role players play and how much you're going to be responsible. You and AD are responsible for dragging along. If we can keep those other guys upbeat, even the ones we don't think are that important, I guarantee it will trickle down to everybody else who's a role player on this team continuing to be fruitful to the overall bigger picture. And so that's what I would tell Bron. I think your son benefits a great deal from not being a burden to anybody on this roster. Some guys gonna hate. It is what it is. Other guys gonna be patient and understand that this is not, it's not something they can do anything about. But the reality is, the more leniency you provide to the feelings of the other guys and the development necessary for your son, the better I think the chemistry will be for your team this year. Don't ask guys to just sit while your son plays minutes that he's not ready for. I think that's a bad decision for the chemistry of the roster and ultimately for the performance of your son and the performance of the team. We can't force a guy to be ready just because we need him to be for what it is we're trying to do. He's not ready. He will be if we don't screw it up. So I would tell the front office, you're going to do whatever LeBron says, and that's why I point this toward LeBron. It's not the front office's call. Even though it technically is, it's not. It's on him. It's on him, and it's about how bad does he need his son to be a part of this year's unit. How bad do you need him to be on the floor with you? Because a 58th pick should not be on the floor with your number 1 or number 2 option most of the time. They just should never be on the floor with those guys. And so these things are tough. They're tough. We got him here. We wanted him here. But now we got to manage everybody, not just him and not just the few guys that are going to be cool with the situation. Not everybody's going to be cool with the situation. Not everybody is important, to be honest with you. But just the same, if you treat everybody like they're important, it really will trickle down to everybody feeling important. And I think that that's most important, if you ask me. So, that's just something I want us to get off to the right start. I understand that nobody believes we have an NBA championship ceiling, but you don't want to give yourself a very bad start anyway, because you never know what could be possible with the type of core that we have. You know what I mean? So we don't want people checking out early just because they're unhappy. That type of crap is avoidable. So I think Bronny, and it's not like Bronny's ready. If he were ready, then that's a different story. But that he's not ready just doubles down on the notion that this is probably the better decision to really just let him sit in the G League, you know what I mean? And work on the things that allow him to be as effective on the basketball floor and his weaknesses as possible. And you'll look up 3 years from now and he'll be flourishing in his career. And I think that's the best case scenario for him. So, yeah, man, that's what I want to say. Yesterday was a little bit of a letdown for me. I don't think many people talked about that in that fashion because they were too busy enamored with how Bron and AD played. But like I said, I'm always thinking about other stuff. And if y'all know me, I'm looking at the stuff that needs to be in order for us to be as good as we can be. You know what I'm saying? That's what, at the end of the day, I look at the Lakers up and down, man. I really do. I'm not a surface level thinker when it comes to this game or as it comes to our team. I never have been. Even as a small child, I was very curious about how our role players was doing. I was very curious about the development of our players, even when I was 10 years old. So that ain't changed now that I'm grown, and it's just more intentional in using my voice to try to lend people to looking at the things that I'm looking at. Bron and AD playing great in the first half of a preseason game against a core that doesn't play any damn defense in Phoenix. I don't find myself moved by that. You know, if I'm being honest with you, I'm not. They're supposed to beat the hell out of them. They are. Bron and AD are supposed to beat old KD, Bradley Beal, who I think is probably over the hill now, and Devin Booker, who doesn't play much defense. Hey, you're supposed to push them out the way. And I think we understand that. So what else is going on? You know what I mean? That we didn't win that game? You know what I'm saying? That's a real thing. And given the fact that we see this Phoenix team 4 times in the next 4 weeks, hell yeah, I wanted to draw first blood. This one was one of the ones I would have tried to win for everybody's morale, especially the young players and our rookie coach, who needs to see success from what it is that he's doing. You know what I mean? That's different when the coach has been in the league for a million years, made a bunch of playoffs, all this different stuff. A guy who's never coached before and he's not getting any success in what he's trying, it's very easy to start second guessing himself or start doing things that he had no business doing, trying to find the confidence to believe he can win. We got to get a win under us. I don't think we benefit based on our specific circumstances from losing out in the summer, in the preseason. I don't think so. Morale is sensitive. Chemistry is sensitive. Confidence, I believe, is sensitive in these situations. And so I'm just very intentional. And I don't think it's going to get that much easier given the fact that we see Milwaukee next on their turf. You know, that's a prideful team. Coach Ham and, Giannis, I don't know how much minutes you can expect Giannis to have, but it seems like Dame Lillard went absolutely nuts in the first half of his last game. So that's an intentional team. They're not being considered a contender, and I think they look at it as a slap in the face. So, I expect for them to come out and be intentional on beating us, whether we care about winning or not. And so that's what I would tell everybody. Just be very, very intentional on drawing some wins out of this preseason so that JJ can sigh a breath of relief in what it is he's trying to accomplish, and so that the young players can start seeing themselves as winners as well. So, yeah, that's important, man. Austin Reeves, I like how he's been getting to the line. His aggressiveness, throwing his body around. He's shown himself to be pretty durable in these situations. When he falls, I don't, gasp or anything like that. He picks himself up. He's very durable at this point. I like Austin a lot. I like his effort on defense. Not very effective in stopping people necessarily, but you just got to push through that, man. You just got to push through that. And I'm a believer in him. So I think this person missed their light. I don't know when they're going to turn, but I'm hoping they don't try to turn while I'm walking here, because they definitely missed their light. But anyway, so yeah, this is one of those situations where with Austin, I'm just looking at this as a big year for him, because he's still on somewhat of the untouchable list. But now that we have a guy like Dalton Connect in place, I don't know if Austin's piece makes as much sense as it will if a guy like Dalton's not on the team, because at the end of the day, the defensive issues that we have, it coupled with the need for offense without Connect, makes Austin make more sense to me. But Austin's defensive issues, coupled with his scoring being kind of up and down, with the presence of Connect, who cannot defend but can score like the wind, makes it a little difficult to feel as confident in the Austin minutes when he's not playing well on either side of the floor. I guess that's what I'm trying to express. You just have a different ingredient in place now that makes it so that the scoring that Austin does isn't as needed as it once was, and the defensive issues Austin provides are much more of a problem because of the presence of Dalton Connect not being able to defend himself. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, I like Austin. I want him to stay on the team. I love the idea of the spacing being good so long as he's a threat from behind the arc. I loved him as a connective piece, can make plays for others. I think he's extremely clutch. He's going to win games for us when he fully gets to where he's going. But there's a but to that. The reality is we have some massive deficiencies on the floor when he's out there not being able to be effective in getting stops. And the more we turn to a guy like Dalton Knecht, the more it's going to be important for both of them to improve defensively in order for us to have our best stuff on the floor at the same time. And that's kind of what it is. You want the best stuff that you have to be able to coexist. And in this situation, D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reaves, and Dalton Knecht, 3 of our very best players, probably can't be on the floor at the same time without punting the defensive end in some very, very unhealthy ways. So that's really what I'm here to say. It wasn't fine last year, but at least with Taurean Prince, he had some ability defensively at times to really be a connective piece. And because he didn't provide certain things offensively, you needed the ball handling a bit more. You needed the driving ability a bit more. You know what I mean? He was so much more limited on the offensive side to where you needed Austin to make up for that. Dalton don't really have that problem as much. So now it's like, okay, how much do I need Austin's positives versus how much am I hurt by his negatives? And it's just a different dynamic. And I saw it on draft night as soon as we took Dalton Knecht. I'm like, yep, this is an interesting dynamic because none of these dudes can play any defense. Now, I know D'Lo could potentially be on the move any minute now. Anytime we get a good trade probably for him, we'll probably move him like a thief in the night. I really wouldn't be surprised if he's moved at any time, just because he's an expiring contract. And I think the team has pressing need for a defensive player in that position to make up for what it is we're talking about here. If we had somebody who was a two-way player or experienced defensive player in that particular situation, it takes away from the needs for Austin and Knecht to defend better. It takes away from the need for Rui to move his feet better, for Bron to play great defense. So it's it would be great if we could have gotten a DeJounte Murray who's a bit better defensively naturally, you know what I mean? But that wasn't in the table for us. And so now we just need the guys who are not very good at defense to find ways of being effective defensively in ways that maybe don't come naturally to them, in order for us not to completely suck on the defensive end when AD sits down. And so that's the issue. Maybe we can try to invest in playing Christian Koloko a bit in those situations to try to help us defensively on the back line. You know what I mean? Maybe that'll make a big difference. You incorporate Max Christie into those minutes at different positions so that you can have those guys on the floor, 2 out of 3 of them on the floor at a given moment with a real perimeter defender out there to help. Maybe incorporating Cam Reddish in certain sequences just the same, so that you can allow Austin and Dalton or Austin and D'Lo to be on the floor together. These are the type of solutions that I think we can find until Vando gets back, and then that'll change things around entirely. And that's why it's kind of difficult to fully assess the team based on what it is we see. Because once you bring Vando back, now you got to take into account that he cannot score. He can't score. Not in some very conventional ways, unless his jump shot just happens to fall, which we're hoping it does. But if it don't, you can't pencil him in for more than like 6 points. So people are going to be sagging off of him. As to which those hyper offensive players are going to be more needed than what we're assessing right now, based on having to make up for his offensive deficiency. So it's just it can balance itself back out when he gets back. Problem is, when he gets back, when is that? Is he getting back? Will we trade him? I don't know if I feel all that confident that he's even going to be back, if I'm being completely honest with you guys. So that's my take on Vanderbilt. I don't know how much I should be working in his strengths and weaknesses into my assessment based on how, up in the air his availability is about to be. So, and then when you try to slot him in, what position is he playing when you have all these other pieces that you're probably going to get more from on the offensive end? So that's going to be a tricky thing. I don't personally think Vanderbilt's the easiest piece to incorporate into this unit. I don't. I may be in the minority with this, but I think it's going to be kind of hard to find responsible ways of putting him on the floor. Unless the jump shot's falling. Defensively, he's going to help us on the perimeter. But for him to be a fantastic defensive player, he's already proven that he doesn't guard the paint. He can't be sealed out underneath the rim with a big guy on him. It's going to be layup line. He might as well not be that great of a defender at all in those situations. So when you limit your understanding, or you limit your, he limits you in what it is he can do for you as a defensive player when he's fresh off injury and not able to guard big players. It's like, okay, I can only put you on the perimeter. So who's sitting down so that you can be out there? And in sitting them down, am I going to be taken away from my offense in some dangerous ways? So it's just, I like Vanderbilt a lot, but I just don't think he's the easiest player to slot into situations. I really don't. I think last year and the year before that kind of proved that to us. That is, if he's hitting his jumper, he can be a hell of a piece, a winning piece. But if that jumper isn't falling and people are sagging off of him, it hurts the offense so much, man. And it's one of those things where he puts pressure on other ball handlers, other guys who are on the floor with him, and they end up getting pressed. And because they're not great ball handlers, as we've discussed once randomly in a video in the past, they end up turning the ball over. If they were better ball handlers, if they were able to handle pressure better, then you would be able to withstand that a bit more. But since they're pretty average ball handling guards, them having guys pressure them like that, especially talented dudes, just turns into empty possessions for us, man. So you need him to be a hell of a threat offensively for those guys. And he hasn't proven he can do that very much. He really hasn't. And given the fact that he's fighting his way back from injury, he hasn't had an opportunity to work on those things. So I'm on the other end of the Vando train. I just don't think he's the greatest piece for the Lakers right now. I really don't. Coupled with the health problems, the thinking that he's probably gonna go down as soon as he comes back. I just don't need that dynamic, man. I don't need that. I'm not this is one of those situations where he could be potentially a Robert Williams, Robinson from the Knicks type of guy, where he's a hell of a defensive player when he's healthy, but his body won't allow him to stay healthy. And then he's always going to be doing stuff that puts his health at risk based on how his style plays. I just don't like those type of players. I love them when they're healthy, but they're never healthy. So what are they doing for me? Like, actually, I think Vando might be that kind of guy. So this is frustrating, man. But I'm definitely shopping Vando, man. I am. And maybe I suffer for it. And listening to Jason Timpf, he thinks that Vando's the difference between us having a championship ceiling or not. And that's definitely a better basketball mind than myself, obviously. But I don't know, man. I trust my instincts. And I trust what I've seen. And what I've seen is a player who provides a great deal of positive, but the negative is absolutely glaring for this unit. It's absolutely glaring. And given the fact that we have a rookie coach who's learning these players, I just don't know how good Vando's going to look for the Lakers, man. Not really sure, man. But at the end of the day, I'll tell all of you this. When Vando's healthy and his jump shot's falling, you're going to be hard-pressed to find a better player to put on smaller players like De'Aaron Fox and some of these quick guys. Emmanuel Quickly, little guys like that you're going to have to guard. Dillingham. I can put him on those guys and get a stop before I be able to put anybody else on those guys. So that's an extremely valuable piece in this league. And given that we have some real deficiencies there, obviously he's important. But if that's what's required to guard those guys, that I have other holes that I cannot close up, it balances me out to not being able to really benefit from it. And so that's why I look at Vando as a piece that could potentially be problematic for this unit. Potentially. So long as the injury issues maintain, especially. So that's where I'm at, man. I hear everybody, oh, Vando come back, everything's gonna be straight. Just put Vando back there, it's easy, man. A lot of those people did not watch the Lakers close enough with all due respect to all of them, they didn't watch him close enough to see all of the negative that came with keeping him on the floor at times. It was bad, man, and it wasn't necessarily his fault. It just catered to showcasing the deficiencies of other players on this roster. That's all it was. You put him on a team that doesn't have those problems, who have a bunch of pure shooters everywhere and great ball handlers, then you don't have that problem. But we don't have that. We don't have Kyrie Irving. Vando would play great next to Kyrie Irving. Because Kyrie ain't turning the ball over with all that dribbling he's doing. He gonna stretch the floor. He's not playing defense so he can help Kyrie. Like, that's the type of situation I believe Vanderbilt's best in. But when you got Austin Reeves, Braun turns the ball over, D'Lo's kind of slow and methodical, it just ain't the right mixture of stuff for a guy like Vanderbilt. You put him down there with Bronny James, man, it's gonna be bad. I'm just telling y'all the truth. So that's why I'm not a believer, man. I hope I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm cool with that. But for me, I'm not a believer in him for this unit that's currently constructed. You get me a Trae Young or something like that, somebody who really needs what he does and can make up for his, for the fact that he's going to be taking them away some of that offensive spacing, someone who can thrive under that circumstance. Cade Cunningham, somebody like that, that's cool. You know what I mean? Guys who are used to taking on smaller courts and still thriving. That's the kind of team that Vando needs to be on. But guys who don't particularly play well in small ball situations, don't particularly ball handle very well, who don't particularly have an interior defensive presence without AD on the floor, so you're asking him to kind of do that too? Nah, man. It's just the wrong ingredient for the specific problems that this roster has, in my opinion. So, I trust myself, man. At the end of the day, I trust myself when it comes to this. I've been watching this game intentionally with this analytical mind all my life. So I know there's a lot to learn, but I trust smarter basketball minds, but I really trust myself too. And I don't see a whole lot of great coming out of that. When he gets back out here, it's going to be a struggle, man. I think with the other players on the team. So we'll see, man. We'll see. I'd love to be wrong. I'd be happy to be wrong. Extremely happy, as a matter of fact, because I really like the Vando. But if I'm putting Vando on a team, it's going to be a different one constructed a different way, basically. And in that situation where the team is catered more so to needing what he does and being able to mask his weaknesses, you got a hell of a piece, a championship level piece. Championship level piece. No doubt about it. So that's really what I got to say, man. But the health, even then, would be a thing. So, yeah, man. A little worried about that. Not to mention is that we still don't know when he's come back. So, who knows? But, yeah, man, I don't know, man. Like, for me, the more I give thought to this situation with the Lakers, the more I say, okay, what can I live without to get the stuff that I really need, man? Vanderbilt's one of those pieces, and I think Rui might be the other one. I don't want to get rid of Rui, but, like, the more I watch what he's not so good at, the more I realize he doesn't really complement the guys that we have because they have some of the weaknesses he has, and he doesn't necessarily provide some of the most necessary traits to complement them. Athleticism, power, defensive rim protection, strength, lower body strength to push people away. He's extremely strong, don't get it twisted. But, like, I want him to be more explosive, less jump shooting, even though I love jump shooting players like him. Put it like this. I look at him as like Tobias Harris light at this point. That's not the right ingredient for our team. We probably more so need Sean Kemp, Zion Williamson light. You know what I mean? I just think it's a different set of needs for this roster. You know what I mean? And we could try to ask him to be that, but he's probably better just shooting a mid-range jumper and, spreading the floor. And even though he's a big, strong guy, you don't necessarily want him having to bang with everybody. He may not be particularly durable. It's like, that's a great piece, just like Vanderbilt, great piece. But we do have specific needs for this roster. We do have especially unathletic guards. You see what I'm saying? Ain't no explosive guards. So when you don't have explosive guards, you probably need your forwards and your centers to be explosive. You know, we got layup merchants, and I keep telling people this is why I don't believe that Jalen Hood-Schifino was the right ingredient to take last year in the draft, because D'Lo's a layup merchant. Austin Reeves has some athleticism, but he's not crazy explosive. You let Walker go. Walker the fourth, he was explosive. Obviously, Russell Westbrook did not fit, but he was explosive. So it's like you lost a lot of athleticism. And in losing that athleticism, you didn't replace it in other areas to make up for it. So you need that explosiveness somewhere. And I just feel like we're a little too unathletic for what Rui is to be relying upon him as much as we do. It helps with the floor spacing, but it makes you a team that's not as explosive, or dare I say as strong as it needs to be in some key areas that allow you to get easy buckets. Taking advantage of tweeners spots is good. You know, having guys who can take advantage of the mid-range is good, because it allows for you to attack from some areas that defenses don't particularly guard very well in the NBA, but you still don't have the highest percentage of scoring as you do when a guy's in the inside constantly slamming it home every 5 minutes. And it takes pressure off of LeBron James from having to do that. It takes pressure off of AD from having to do that, who both have so many other responsibilities, to where if you don't have any other players that do that, like any position, you have a need for that. So it's like, these are the type of things that we're thinking about when we consider Rui down there. He's cool if I really need a Tobias Harris type player. And that's a great piece to have if I have the other stuff that I need. But if I'm choosing between what I most need, what he is versus somebody who would be like I said, Sean Kemp light or Zion Williamson light, I kind of need that a little more than I need Rui based on what this team is. So that's kind of what I'm telling you. I'm trying to figure out how within the margins we can fix this basketball team, and what pieces would be valuable enough to try to shop on the market to get what it is I need. And I do believe that there may be a way to get what we need, but we have to be willing to give up something. And if I'm choosing something to get rid of, if I'm not going to move Austin Reeves, you know what I'm saying, then it's probably, I've probably figured out that Rui's the piece to move, probably Vandal, the piece to move, unfortunately. And look, I don't want to move those guys in a nutshell, I don't. But for the needs of this team and how we've strangled ourselves in certain areas to where we just won't move other players, this is really what I see that could be the only way to get that stuff that we need. So I don't know if GMs agree with me on this one. I don't know if Rob Pelinka agrees, but that's probably how I'm going to be approaching the situation if I were the GM, man. Probably going to chop them two dudes, try to get myself that athletic, explosive piece at the 4 spot, or an athletic, explosive guard that I can trust play starters minutes. You know what I mean? So I can supplement some of these layup merchant issues that we have, some of these injury issue problems that we have, some of these soft defensive issues that we have, one-way player issues that we have. We just got to do something. And that's what I see we can do. Maybe. So that's pretty much where I'm at, man. I'm not going to just be shopping those dudes for nothing. I got to be able to get the specific piece that I want, or I'm not going to shop them dudes. I'm not throwing them any picks on top of them too. So, you know, if it ain't possible, it ain't happening. But for me, I'm just looking at what can we do? And that's what I see. So that's pretty much what I got to say. My name is BDO44. I thank you for watching.